I'm going to review the Tiger One initial DAC, or early 1943 North African Front Tunisia, by Rye Field Model, who's a new company that this is their first model kit ever, as far as I know. The kit number is 5001, and there is no where this came from because this is their, like I said, first model. So, this is huge. Because it's another Chinese company coming onto the market trying to compete with Dragon. At least it seems to me it could be. Also, so they release a DAC, and Dragon announces re-releasing their DAC. Up until now, and I was actually trying to build this before I got this kit for review, but only got about this far. You had the Tamiya DAC, and that was like your only choice. So, before I get into this, I would like to thank Rye Field Model for sending me this sample to review. I'm very excited about finding out what the story is, because this has caused a lot of buzz. So, let's check out their renders, very Dragon-esque here. These are the same pictures that have been out for a while, but there is PE. Different way of doing PE than I just saw the new way the Dragon's doing these initial finals in the 131 kit. And these Modelkasten style tracks, that should be pretty crazy. Other side of the box, we've only got marking option for your standard large red numbers with a white stroke DAC style. Nothing on the back, and because this is the company's first kit, I thought I'd show you what it looks like inside of here, because you know, different companies do things a different way. So, individually bagged here, this has kind of a Tacom sort of feel, or Meng even, like the just newer companies that I've seen. Then you've got double sprues there, single, and then the hull tub, the wheels on a smaller sprue, one more big sprue in there, but still it's relatively well packaged. The only things they double up are, identical sprues. There's no like just generalized doubling up of stuff. So the instructions are a actual book with a color picture on it. It's pretty cool. So, although it's, yeah. All right, so sprue map right away. This is also different. I did just prep the contents, and all of these things are in resealable bags, and man, it feels really kind of high-end. It's polished. It's not cheap at all. So, although I don't have to look through that. Sting? Not string? Sting! Alright, so step one, here's a less than ideal part. We've got turret halves a la Tamiya. Now, a Tiger is a vehicle that doesn't really show up all that well. See if I have a Tamiya Tiger right next to me. So, that's turret halves. And the seam is always behind the stowage bend, so there'll be a little bit of a seam there, which you can see right now, but like on the vehicle it's pretty tough to. And then right underneath there. So I'm not, excusing it, but on a Tiger it's a lot less noticeable than on other things. Here's the Dragon I'm working on right now. No seams, because they have these, they just give you this shell of it, so I don't care for the halves for sure. But this mantlet assembly is very similar to Dragon's, with the sleeve separate from the mantlet and the two interior parts, and then the gun as well, where you've got this piece, then this little connector between those two, and then the three-piece brake. So it's a hybrid, or actually very similar to the way Dragon does them in 6600, which isn't the best. But so then we have loader's hatch. Now we have interior detail for the ventilator, which sometimes even Dragon doesn't do. I know they own or have tooled this piece, but sometimes they just don't call it out. On the mid that I just did, they didn't. There is the bracket for the loader's hatch. I noticed this when looking at just opening the parts up. They have interior detail for the turret, at least all the brackets and stuff. So that's different. So apart from the halves, this is a very nice turret so far. Okay, so smoke launchers, that assembly looks just like it always does. The pins go in. Now, I can't really tell how this is being done. I'm assuming that this will be clear, and then these black pieces will go on top of that. That would look nice. Very similar to the way that Tamiya does it there. That's a little more complex though. You've got these two tiny pieces and this tiny little piece here. This feels a little different than anybody that I've seen do it. I can't tell you if it's better or worse. Here's another interesting difference. The turret pin's being done the same way that the Tamiya DAC one was done. But then you get this ring with, by the looks of it, teeth, which is only, up until now, only Dragon has done. So you don't have the little notches, you'll set it in there, which a lot of us prefer. As far as I can tell, the pistol port, well, pistol ports in this case, don't look like they have the same interior detail that Dragons do. I can't really see from there. This lower hull is done very strangely. It's calling out workable torsion bars right here. I'm assuming that means you need to cut this off to make them workable. I like that option because the Dragon workable ones, you kind of don't have a choice. And you have to attach these extensions here on, which is a little strange. As long as they glue on correctly, though, it looks like there's a little carved out piece. You can glue them like to the side, then it'll be fine. This little plate for knocking the track pins back in is separate, which is good. Right, so what the hell? The final drives are separate pieces. That's new. I've never seen a 3-piece final drive before. On most kits it's just 1 piece. Alright, so the exhausts, this is all 1 piece. If that's done correctly, that'll be great, where you have the 5 pins connected to this, because it's really hard to get balanced with Dragon. Then the top, it looks like the flapper might be part of that piece. And then the standard weighted exhausts have always been done. I think they're also pointing out to you to have them in the correct orientation there. Alright, so the rear plate. There's the sort of inertial starter plate and the cover for it. This all looks very, very similar to the way everyone does it. Wheels. Nothing to write home about there. What I'm curious about is if they'll do it the way Dragon has been doing it recently. With these, here, let's take it off. With the extended part, sorry, there. Which it should be there, so if you decide to leave wheels off, you have that. Well, Dragon actually has options for that little connector if it's on or off. So I hope they do. We'll see. Alright, so there's some measurements here having to do with the way that spare tracks were hung off the rear. It does have these little things to put in the cowlings for the exhausts, which is good. This is telling you not to glue the toe shackles, I'm assuming. It's a 2-piece toolbox here. Yeah, it looks like something is going in the wheels, but I'm not sure what, unless they're workable. I'm not really sure how this is done. But having little things like this go on to the idler, very strange to me. Yeah, I think that might be to be workable, like little caps. And then down in step 8 here is what I'm talking about. This right there, which are what you put on if you don't have the outer wheels on. I believe that's what that is. Times 8, It's not being called out particularly well. These instructions seem a little strange. I'm used to Dragon, I might have to get used to these guys. It looks like the rubbers might be separate, at least for some of the wheels. That's interesting. There's a jack, very similar to the way Dragon does them. Interesting. I'm assuming these may be paint callouts, but they're showing you all the clasps. Oh, no. Because here is, I'm assuming that could be their bend symbol. It looks like you have the option for PE clamps or molded on clamps. Telling you to drill some holes in the upper hull. The fuel filler caps and stuff are separate, the way Dragon does now. I apologize, by the way, if you're not a Dragon fan, and I keep mentioning Dragon, but they are sort of the standard bearer of Tigers, so that's who you compare to. The rest of this looks pretty standard. Drivers and radio guys hatch. There's some interesting interior detail I've never seen on anything. Little springs and stuff. The periscope cover and periscope and the handle all look the same, but that's new. Kind of unnecessarily detailed, which I like. Okay. Oh dear God. Okay, it looks like the clamps for to hold the cables down are four separate pieces. This guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. If that's styrene, that's insanity. Good Lord. Yeah, I don't like that it's using the string for this, but I also don't really like dragging the metal cables either, so my advice would be use copper. Again, they've got red, and like a fool I didn't read what red meant in the beginning, but you've got a picture of a knife, so this may mean remove if you want to use alternates. The little headlight plate is separate. This is crazy, all the cable, or the little lockdowns for the cables are separate. On Dragon, these are two-piece, where like this piece and the top and bottom kind of snap together. And it looks good, but I don't know. We'll have to see how this one works out. And here they're showing you how the backwards cable arrangement of the DAC Tigers. Alright, so bow plate. Very similar to Dragons, I think. Not as much interior bow machine gun though. It's like just a barrel. And here, just the PE and the shovel and stuff going on that front little plate. Not a whole lot to report there. Five-hole assembly again is a slight disappointment because we've got these double halves. I don't like this. The way Dragon did them in Tiger 131 was just amazing. Now, that being said, they do have PE to cover up the seams, at least on the top, not the sides though. So that's unfortunate. And then hopefully they'll have, it looks like they have styrene pieces for the hoses. There's your spare antenna tube. Final assembly. Unfortunately, it looks like this is still one piece. Why couldn't somebody mold these as four separate pieces? Here's a very detailed headlight system. Yeah, and then they're kind of glossing over the Modelkasten Tracks, so interesting Tiger. I'll have to build this pretty soon. There's your color callouts in Mr. Color Aqueous Hobby Color. And only one marking option. The first thing is decal sheet, which is printed in China, and we have no way of knowing the quality of these. We've got a few divisional markings, 501. Some different numbers. Apparently you can just sort of pick what kind of turret numbers you want. It's very cool. A couple of different weights of Balkenkreuz. They look sort of Tamiya-ish, these decals. I'll have to run them in and figure it out. Then the next thing, oh, so what they called string is apparently, well, let me get that out. So this is how everything in the kit is packaged, by the way. These resealable plastic bags, which is kind of amazing, as long as they do actually reseal after this review. Otherwise, still, no staples, no cutting, which is pretty cool. So I want to see, yeah, so that's not string, Chinese guy who made the instructions, that's braided copper. So that is awesome, because it's got some weight, but it's very, very malleable. Well, I don't know how malleable it really is, but no, it's malleable. Alright, so that's the best tow cable I've ever seen. Coming with a kit. Awesome. And our etch seems pretty thin. You've got all these skid plate, different textures actually. They're all slightly different. Those diamond plates are anti-skid stuff. Then your 4 standard grills, what looks like a bunch of PE clamps. These pieces up here are for the wheels. Top of the 5-0, shovel cover by the look of it. Yeah, they have Photo-Etch for the stuff that holds the tow cables. That's pretty extensive. It's not bad at all. And like I said, it's pretty thin. It'll be easy enough to work with. That's impressive, especially that tow cable. I did not know that was in there. Next thing we'll look at is the tracks. So we've got this sprue. By the way, this plastic feels a little bit, it's very crisp. Again, it reminds me of kind of the Meng stuff. But you've got 4 of these, and then you actually have this box of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about between 10 and 20 of these. I'm going to get one out if I can, or get them all out. So, this is where your tracks are. Seriously. Move it. So each one of these, right, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 track lengths. Of the early type with the 3 indentations. Notice how there are no guide horns, but there are also no ejector pin marks. They look pretty crisp. So there'll be 2 spots to remove on each one. My only complaint is that they put one, see this one in the lower part is on this round piece, and that actually sticks out a little bit from the standard piece of the track, so you have to try to sand that as round as you can. That'll be annoying. So there's a box of track like that, then 4 sprues like this, full of pins and guide horns. This is the stuff of nightmares, people. But there is a jig on each sprue. The fidelity of everything, though, very crisp. Seriously, I'm pretty impressed by their molding in general. It is not spongy at all. So that would be their tracks. That'll take you a good long time. So then we have 2 of these. My only complaint thus far looking at this kit is that both of these exhaust pieces were a little bit bent when I opened it. Like that. Gotta be careful with that kind of stuff. So on this sprue, which is labeled D, so here we have our larger, earlier type idler wheels. If you can see how crisp that is, it's just very, very, very pretty. Right there is smoke launchers with grenades in them. That looks a little thick to me. I could be wrong. Looks alright. I have not looked at this at all, so you're hearing every thought I have here. So then there's the extensions for the wheels if you don't have them on, and they are squared off on the top and bottom like they should be. These little things for the engine deck. You got some little butterfly screw-in thingies. Sorry, I'm not a technical man. You got some clamps for holding down. See, those hold down the tow cables, and those are one piece. Oh, here's your empty smoke launchers. And then there's the S-mine launchers, I assume. No? Maybe? I would think so. But these seem okay. God, part of me feels like that's a little thick, but I don't know. That's for an escape hatch. I don't know what that would be used for. There's a pistol port. It does have some interior detail, sort of, to fit into that square. That's the thing that knocks the track pins back in. You've got one wheel with spare or separate rubber. There's your drive sprockets. Interestingly enough, an early and a late, so apparently these guys aren't making just this one kit. That's weird. Is that just flash? No. They're doing that kind of the way that Dragon does, or it just has multiple connection points, but it's certainly done in a strange way. Plastic hasn't suffered at all from it, though. So that's the top of the exhaust and a towing clevis. There's your... Crap, where'd it go? This guy here. This swing arm for the idler actually looks more correct than I've seen on any other kit. There's a famous picture of a DAC Tiger upside down on fire in Tunisia, and that's what the idler for the swing arm for the idler looks like. The little parts on here are flippin' tiny, very clean. I'm sorry my camera doesn't really zoom in so well. I plan on reinvesting YouTube monies into a better camera at some point, so should I ever get any. There's two of those. Man, that's clean. I don't know why that would be there either. They don't have those on Tigers. And there's another example of like that interior hatch detail. Good gravy. Very pretty. Let's get to an important one. Big sprue. So here's our upper hull plate. These welds look really nice. And the molded on detail really pops off of there. It's interesting how they save space by molding the engine deck inside of the turret thing. And this still has the notches, which is weird because, as far as I can tell, the turret isn't going to have them. Detail-wise, that stuff really pops off. All of the recessed holes and welds and stuff. It's a different type than Dragon. It's a little bit crisper, a little bit finer, honestly. It's not to say that it goes together the same way. Couldn't tell you until I built it, but... Alright, so here we've got the brackets for the smoke launchers. There's a shovel with two clasps on it. The Inertial starter plate in the toolbox, and a jack block. There's 2 toolboxes. Now there's a shorter DAC toolbox. I think that's what this is. That's a DAC toolbox, and that's a standard one. 2 different jack blocks as well. Very interesting. Parts for the jack. The visor is done in one piece. That's fine with me. I don't need it to be movable. There's the hatches for the upper part. Eyelets for the tow cables. The machine gun. I'm assuming bow MG. Brackets for holding track in the front. 5 hoses are right there. There's the shovel, more barrel cleaning rods. All the tools have class molded on. They look pretty good, a little bit spongier than Dragon's, to be honest. Just a teensy bit though. But miles above Tamiya's stuff. Where'd it go? The molded on things for the dust cover look better than Tamiya's by miles. I'll show you that one. So that's the old Tamiya DAC. They barely pop off at all. Rear plate, very, very crisp. Yeah, but those 5s look real good. Again, though, the halves for the filters, I'm concerned about a seam like that. Pretty impressive though. I'm a little confused what I'm looking at here. It's like that flash, maybe? Some kind of mold release or something. This interior stuff here I don't understand. I think they may be planning an interior version of this. So there's your turret sprue. And what I noticed right away, interior detail, as well as a half with an escape hatch, meaning that they are more than likely planning an early. Sorry, bumping the camera. So the outside is pretty smooth though. The welds seem nice, but the surface is awfully smooth. Also, there's no actual opening between the pistol port and the outside, which there should be. There is with the escape hatch, though. These welds look good. That's interesting. They go farther back on the early than they do on the initial, which I think is correct. Which means they'd need to retool this to use the other half, otherwise you'd have different style welds. Turret roof looks pretty good. The welds look good. Again, it's super smooth, but that's more acceptable normally on top plates than side. But there's our mantlet pieces, ventilator cover. What the hell? I think this is how their barrel works. There's the sleeve. There's their muzzle brake. The interior for the ventilator, 3 different mantlets, which are, these are just slightly different, and then this one's like an early, like an armored one. But there's this piece goes in between the binocular sight holes, and on here it doesn't. But it's not a Tiger P, is it? Yeah, this one is a Tiger P. Sorry? It's a Tiger P, standard early, armored early. And there's the bottom. Oh, okay, so they have this bottom ring with the teeth, but it still has the notches to lock it in. Two different loaders hatches. There's the commander's hatch. They're doing the sort of dragon knockout mark thing. The two different 5-0 connectors, the indented and the flat. Barrel, stowage bin pieces. Other parts of the muzzle brake. Then cupola done similar to the way Dragon does it. The vision slits are open. And the majority of the stowage bin is molded like that. So I think that's just an early one. These padlocks look pretty good for molding on one, so. All in all, again, I don't care for the turret halves, but everything on here looks very, very nice. So, front plate, yeah, see here I think is the DAC stowage bin is in separate pieces, so I think that's an early stowage bin. Something I found very interesting when I was looking at this. Let's see how thin these are. These are pretty thin, but they're still a little overscale. I'm not sure how these look. That looks a little fat. Yeah, those look a little straight to me too. There's normally a, even Tamiya's has it here. There's normally a roundness to these in-betweens right here, even if it's subtle. And on here it looks rather straight. And a little thick. Although really thin on that one. Interesting. I'd have to see how they went together. There's your track changing cable. That looks very clean. Holy cow. More drive sprockets. These might be like initial ones, because this is clearly an initial sprue, because it has this and the DAC stowage bin. That looks really smooth. And there's no texture on here, so you'd have to use the PE. There's the hull extensions done in a very strange way. But with the correct notch here, and this hole lower down than it normally is, it looks a little big. Those are the conduits for the headlights done in plastic, by the way. That's crazy. There's a second pistol port in this sprue. There's your DAC style fenders with the kink in them. And these sides are done the way Dragon does them. The detail really pops off of there. The rear mud guards. A little flash on there. Looks like it. Compare that with this guy. They seem a little... Sorry. I like to compare things. Wheels. Not much to write home about. Grab some Dragon wheels here. That's a comparison. I'd actually kind of have to say this is a little crisper. You got these two little holes in there where Dragon's doesn't. It does, but they're really small. I'm not sure which one's more correct. But these do still feel too smooth, where Dragons feel a little bit surfacey, a little more orange peely, which feels more correct. You can see there's a specular shine on these as well. That's how smooth they are. Not much to say. They're not as, you know, spongy as Tamiya's old ones were. I got some of those too. So, here's the same wheel from Tamiya's deck. There's not really any competition there. There's two of those, and they seem really simple, but correct. Now, interestingly enough, there's two of these. I have no idea why. So these are 4 wide ammo, which is how they're stored in a Tiger. So what's the deal with that? And then you've got some separate ammo, some machine gun bags, which are also very common inside a Tiger's interior. Excuse me. So, yeah, it's my prediction. There's an interior one coming, which would be awesome, because that Academy one needs to be taken outside and buried in a hole. This all looks great. Yeah, there's just 2 sprues of, here you've got 4 Panzer Granada 39, more than likely, and then you've got some separate ones and some machine gun ammo. And then the whole tub. And again, somebody's going to put an interior in this thing eventually, because that's where the firewalls go. And that's where some other stuff goes. And that's more interior detail than you need. Holy crap. I don't even know what this is. This isn't even on the Academy one now. The escape hatch isn't on the bottom, like Academy's had. Well, that's interesting. It's the same way Dragon does that. But that's a really weird way to do that. The plates are done correctly, the scalloping's done correctly. Those bump stops pop off of there awfully crisp. You know, the detail level is here on this thing. It's beautiful. It's just so different. It's weird for me. But yeah, clearly there's an interior coming. I don't think this one even had fan assemblies for back here, yet they have these holes in there. They might be waiting for their interior for that. Last thing is these clear parts. That's for the cupola, a couple of periscopes. Feel thinner than clear parts do for Dragon. Squishy. Like Dragon ones are very stiff. Maybe a little less glass looking, but I think they get the job done. Interesting. The mold quality is what we've come to expect from the newer companies. Again, I make comparisons to stuff I've seen from Mang or the Tacom I looked in. I've only looked at one of those, but the crispness and the type of plastic feels like that. There's some stuff done in plastic in here that is crazy, like these conduits. There's a lot of PE in there if you choose to do it. I don't know how much of it's optional versus like you have to. It is eons beyond the Tamiya one. And it's, yeah, it's good competition for Dragon Stack that they're re-releasing because it has basically Modelkasten Tracks, which cost $40. Not that you should build them because you'll want to kill yourself, but that's impressive. I'm impressed. I guess, bottom line, this thing runs, what do they say? Like 60 $65 shipped currently from whoever people are buying it from, Lucky Model, I think, versus Dragon's $80 from Dragon USA for their re-release stack with the S-Tracks, so which are all the same old Sprues we've seen for years, except for the shrouds. So this would get my vote in the DAC race of Tamiya versus the re-release Dragon versus this. This thing seems really cool. Very encouraged by what you can tell there will be an interior version, there will be an early version. This is a good sign, especially if they keep their prices down.